Hey YouTube, it's Phil here. Gonna talk about some different types of earrings you can get when you're buying plugs and that kind of thing, different kind of materials, how you can stretch and everything like that. Just kind of a basic about ear stretching. So first of all, if you're thinking about ear stretching, you're probably gonna need a taper. And a taper looks like this. It starts out small, goes big like that. It's usually to go up one size or so. So this is a 0 gauge taper made out of acrylic. And people have different opinions on tapers and even different opinions about acrylic. Usually they say acrylic is porous, so it's really bad for your ears when healing and things like that. But once your ear is healed, probably about 3 weeks in when it stops hurting and everything like that, acrylic should be fine in your ear as long as you don't keep it there for too long, because some toxins can get released into your body and can cause infection, that sort of thing. But if your ear is healed, then you should be okay. But when it comes to tapers, you're not really leaving them in your ears too long, so it's fine to just put an acrylic taper through and then, put your plug right after that. So this is what a taper looks like. It has an O-ring or two on it, usually to keep it in your ear. And these are these little black elastic things. If you didn't know the names of them, they're called O-rings. Next, we have single flared eyelets. And eyelets are also called flesh tunnels or tunnels sometimes, which is where you can see through them like this. And single flare means it has kind of a bigger end like this on them. So what you do is you take one O-ring, you put it at the back, and then the flare keeps it in your ear and the other O-ring keeps it in your ear. And sometimes what I like to do with these single flared eyelets is that I put a O-ring right around the flare, like right at the end like that, and then I put a second O-ring at the back. So when it's in my ear, it kind of gives the impression that it's a little bigger because there's an extra layer around it, like another O-ring right by the flare, so it makes it look a little bigger. And sometimes it's really annoying when you just have the flare, because sometimes it can pop out and it hurts and that sort of thing. So I don't know, I would suggest doing that sometimes for, one, the effect that it makes it look bigger, and two, just for the convenience, because when I had my first pair of single flared eyelets with just the one O-ring, would always fall out and it would really hurt, so I would suggest doing that. Next we have, this is another tunnel, but this has a screw-on back. Alright, so you have your tunnel here, and then you have something that screws on the back. And the problem I have with these sometimes is that there's internally threaded and externally threaded, and I'll explain to you that difference in a second. I don't know if you can see here, but there's ridges on the end like that, and then you attach it like this, right? So this is called externally threaded because the threads, so what gets screwed on, are actually on the plug like this on the outside. And I don't know if you could really see it here, but the threads actually come a bit farther out than the gauge itself. So say this is a 7/16 tunnel. So if I'm at a 7/16, I have a really hard time putting this through, only because my ear has to get through these threads, which can tear my ear, or it's a little bit bigger so it really doesn't fit. And I've been having a lot of trouble with these threads. So that's something called externally threaded. Now I have a 4-gauge plug here which is externally threaded, or internally threaded, which means the thing that screws on actually has the threads on it, and the plug itself, as you can see, you can't really notice any threads, but there's threads on the inside like that. And I find that much easier to work with. These are both out of surgical steel, which is usually what a lot of plugs are made out of, surgical steel. Really good for your ear healing, but once you start stretching and you start trying different types of jewelry, you can really tell what your body likes and what your body doesn't like. Let's see, next I have these organic plugs, and these just have a little tunnel through them, which looks kind of cool, and these are double flared. And double flared means is that there's no O-ring on them, there's no screw on, it just means that there's two ends like this. So there's different methods on how to put double flares in. When you first stretch to a size, you can't usually put double flares on, only because your ear is not stretched enough, right? It has to be healed and be able to have a little bit of leeway, because the flares are actually significantly bigger than the gauge. For example, in my ear now I have double flared glass plugs, which I bought from bodyartforms.com, really good website. I'm going to put it right there. Anyways, as you can see, the ends are bigger than the gauge itself. That's what's in your ear. So you have to use a certain technique to put them in. So here, let me just show you how to do it. If I can get a close-up. So I have my ear here, 00, and I have my plug. What I'm going to want to do is pretty much insert it from the back and put it on an angle. So as you can see, the plug's coming through a bit, right? So I have the edge of the flare at the end of my ear, and then I'm going to grab the edge of the flare with my finger and kind of push it through like that. So like that. so it just kind of slides in, and since you're going at an angle, your ear's only kind of stretching a bit, so it's not as painful as you were trying to just shove it in there. So you got to really watch out with double flare. So I would suggest waiting probably 2 to 3 weeks on a new stretch if you're thinking about double flares in. And even if you're having trouble after 2 to 3 weeks, it does happen. You just got to wait, but you will get them in eventually. Let's see here. I have a pincer, and it's made out of glass. I actually really like this. This is a 0 gauge pincer. I really like glass. My ear heals well with glass. Feels really nice. Kind of has a little bit of weight to it, which is helpful. It just feels really nice in your ear. If you haven't tried glass, I would suggest just trying it just to see how your ear reacts to it. But I personally love glass. I have my double flared glass plugs here. They're fantastic. So we got like wood, horn, bone, that kind of stuff is organic plugs. You got your stainless steel, surgical steel kind of stuff here. You have your acrylic, which can be seen as bad, so would not really recommend getting acrylic. And then you have your glass here. The last type of jewelry you can get is silicone, which is like this. It's really squishy. I like silicone. Some people, what they do is that, see this plug, this is a 00 plug, they can bend it like this, see how it becomes very small, and what you could do is use this to stretch, because you put it in your ear and it unfolds like that into your next size. I wouldn't recommend doing that when you're stretching, only because it can really tear your ear apart. It's really bad to be stretching with silicone. So if you have a pair of silicone plugs, I recommend taper or taping first before putting this in. But these are really cool. They're really comfortable, and they even make your ear look bigger. These are silicone ear skins from Chaos Software, which I got from bodyartforms.com as well. Now, for products I use, you want to get some alcohol to disinfect the plugs before putting them in your ear, because you don't want to put something dirty in your ear. So have like a little shot glass or a little container that you can pour some alcohol in, throw your plugs in there for a couple minutes, just make sure it's all clean. Another product which I live by is vitamin E oil. It's a lubricant, has the consistency of honey almost, and that's really good for when you're stretching your ears. You just rub that on and you stretch your ear really easily. And what you can do is actually massage your ear with vitamin E oil. Take out your plugs, just put some on your hand and just massage your earlobes for a couple minutes each day, and it really helps with healing when you're stretching. And my final thing I want to show you guys is Teflon tape, also known as plumber's tape. And a lot of people, especially when they get to bigger sizes like past 00, they stop using taper and start using tape. A lot of people think electrical tape is okay to use, but it's actually really not okay to use. Because the problem with electrical tape is that it's adhesive, so you know all that sticky stuff? So when you stick it to your plug, that stuff that makes it stick, so like the tape itself, kind of goes into your ear and causes it to infect your ear. So it's really not good to use any adhesive tape at all, except for bondage tape. Bondage tape is okay to use. There's really only 2 types of tape you should be using to stretch, or else your ear can get really messed up. So this is called Teflon tape. It's kind of hard to use because it's non-stick. Like, I could put my fingers through it and it's not sticking. It's kind of just like a band. So you're gonna need to practice like wrapping your plug with it, and after a while you become pretty good at it, so helps you go up sizes. Right now I'm trying to stretch to a 7/16, so I'm going to start wrapping my ears pretty soon. But what you want to do is make sure that both of your plugs are wrapped equally. So if you're wrapping like 4 times on one plug, you got to make sure you're going to wrap 4 times on the other plug. And I think it works pretty well. I still personally like using tapers because you just put it through and it's done. Versus this, it takes maybe a couple weeks depending on how much you tape. The first time I actually taped, I wrapped my plug probably 20 times or 30 times. It was like ridiculous. But when I put it through in my ear, it didn't hurt. Left it there for about a day, and then the next day I just popped some 00 plugs in and it didn't even hurt at all. So I was really impressed with the results. So just make sure that you use the proper tape. You take your time. You make sure you get, types of jewelry which your ear actually enjoys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, hit me up on YouTube. You can watch my other videos. And if you're looking to buy plugs and you don't really have them all in your town, or you can't really find any, I would suggest going to bodyartforms.com because they're just awesome. Like, I've ordered so many plugs from there and they have good service. I'm from Canada, so it's a bit far for them to ship, but they do it anyways, and they have great customer service. They're not paying me to do anything. I just really like the site. So if you're looking to get some pretty nice plugs, go there. So talk to you guys later.